Okay, welcome to this weekly. We will be working on factoring. Let's look at the first question. The first example looks like this is going to be a GCF type question. Looks like a GCF of, I'm going to go with a -2. That is a factor of both coefficients. And it looks like we also have an x. Remember, you can go as large as the smallest exponent. Alright, so looks like a GCF of a -2x. What do I do with that? Well, we're going to divide by -2x everywhere. Okay, and what am I left with? I am left with -2 divided by -2 is 1. So 1 x to the second divided by x to the first is x. And plus 6 divided by -2 is actually going to be a minus. So -3. And the x's will divide out. So I'm left with 1x minus 3, and you have to put the GCF out front. You could write this as -2x times the quantity x minus 3. If you did distribute, you should come up with -2x squared plus 6x, and that's how I know we're correct. Please stay tuned for a question to follow. Okay, let's look at another example here. We have 9x squared minus 1. We are going to factor this. So factoring this, the first thing I would do is look for a GCF. There is no GCF here. Let's check to see if it's the difference of perfect squares. This is the difference of perfect squares. 9x squared is a perfect square. So is 1. I know it's the difference because of subtraction. This would not have worked if it was 9x squared plus 1. Alright, so what am I going to do? Let's take the square root of the first term. The square root of 9x squared will be 3x. Alright, so I'm going to put a 3x as my first term in each of the factors. Because it's the difference of perfect squares, the pattern is plus and minus. That would be the square root of the second term here, which is going to be 1. Square root of 1 is 1. So we have the quantity 3x plus 1 times the quantity 3x minus 1. If I double distribute, combine like terms, I will come up with 9x squared minus 1. The positive 3x's, the positive and negative 3x will cancel out. That's why there would be no middle term. And there's your answer. Please stay tuned for a question that follows. Okay, let's look at this next example. We have x squared minus 7x plus 12. We are going to factor this. There is no GCF. This is not the difference of perfect squares, so let's try sum and product. You also know this as the AC or box method, whatever you decided to call it. Let's look at what is A times C. A times C, it's 1 times 12. We have 12. So AC is 12. What are the factors of 12 that will add to -7? You could list all of these out, but I believe we have 3 and 4, some combo of 3 and 4. I would think they would both be negative. Negative times negative is positive. Negative plus negative is negative. That seems to work. Let's break the x squared down into x and x. And it would be in no particular order x minus 3 times the quantity x minus 4. And you could reverse that, x minus 4 times the quantity x minus 3. Alright, we have another example of factoring here. This is a situation where no GCF is there. There's no difference of perfect squares. Sum and product is probably not going to work because I have a lead coefficient that's not 1. So let's go to factor by grouping. Let's go with AC. What is the A term times C term? It's 12. Alright, that term is 12. So I have to figure out now, what are the factors of 12 that add to this middle term? This is similar to the example we just looked at. It's going to be a 3 and 4, and it looks like they are both negative. So what I'm going to do at this point, though, is I'm going to rewrite the 2x squared. I'm going to write a minus 3x and a minus 4x. Okay, those two terms will add to the -7x, which we call the B term. And then let's put our plus 6. Now is the grouping portion. Let's group up the 2x squared minus 3x as well as the -4x plus 6. Okay, think GCF at this point. First grouping looks like a GCF of x. And what I'm left with is 2x minus 3. Second grouping, GCF of 2. I'm going to take out a -2 because I don't like that lead coefficient to be negative, so bring out a -2. I am going to be left with 2x, and because I took out a -2, this sign changes. so a negative 3. And I'm feeling pretty good about this because I have a common factor there. Let's factor that out. So 2x minus 3 is my factor I just factored out. I'm left with x minus 2. And there is my answer. Please stay tuned for an example question to follow.